So, if you've been trying to make sense of the US housing market lately, you're probably a little confused. I mean, it's not exactly booming, but it's not crashing either. So, what in the world is going on? Well, according to the analysis we're breaking down today, the market isn't crashing. It's frozen solid. Let's get into it.
Right. This is the big question, isn't it? Everybody's wondering, with interest rates going through the roof, basic economics says prices should have collapsed by now, like they did back in 2008. But this time is very, very different, and we're about to show you exactly why.
You see, the first thing we have to do is change our vocabulary. A crash, well, that's what we all remember. Forced sales, prices in a free fall, widespread loan defaults. But what we have today is a frozen market. Homeowners are totally stable with their payments, but prices are stuck in this weird gridlock, and pretty much nobody can move.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this gridlock, we first have to talk about what a healthy, normal housing market is even supposed to look like.
Think of a healthy market like a living ecosystem. Homes get older, things start to break down, so their prices naturally get discounted. This discount is what attracts investors. They swoop in, buy the place, fix it up, and then resell it. It's this constant process that refreshes the country's entire housing stock and keeps everything flowing. It's a beautiful, self-correcting cycle. Well, here's the entire problem in a nutshell. That cycle is completely broken. The market's natural immune system, the one that's supposed to fix and recycle older homes, it's just ground to a halt. And a huge reason why has to do with how radically different today's world is from the last time we saw a big downturn.
Look, I know the comparison to 2008 is everywhere, but trust me, it's the wrong way to look at this. The fundamental mechanics of what's happening today are just on a different planet.
You have to remember, 2008 wasn't really a housing price crisis at its core, it was a loan structure crisis. Millions and millions of people had these ticking time bombs called adjustable rate mortgages, or ARMs. The whole bet was that rates would be lower in a few years and they could just refinance. But rates stayed high, those loans reset, and boom, all of a sudden their monthly payments doubled, sometimes even tripled overnight. It became mathematically impossible for them to pay.
And this right here is the absolute key difference. 2008 was a payment shock. People were forced into foreclosure because they literally could not make the payment. Today is a mobility shock. Almost everyone has a great, low, fixed-rate mortgage. They can totally afford to pay. In fact, their deal is so good they can't afford to move.
So what's actually causing this mobility shock? Well, this analysis points to 5 distinct interconnected locks that have completely seized up the entire housing market. And here they are. You've got the rate lock, the cash owner lock, the replacement cost lock, something called scarcity pricing, and finally, the simple fact of our aging housing stock. The important thing to get is that it's not just one of these things, it's a whole system of problems that are all feeding off each other.
All right, let's break down the first one, the rate lock. We all know about the wave of people who refinanced into those crazy sub-3% rates during the pandemic. But there's a huge hidden group in here that people forget. The millions of folks who got loan modifications after 2008. They were also put into super stable 2 to 3% loans. You add those two groups together and you get something like 40% of all mortgage holders locked into rates that are basically a fantasy today.
This creates what our source material calls the price per square foot trap. Just think about it. If you're a current owner, moving means trading your amazing low rate for a high one, paying a higher price overall for the new house, and, to add insult to injury, probably getting a place that's in worse shape. The math just doesn't work. So what do? You stay put, you remodel your kitchen, and you keep your house off the market.
Okay, on to the second lock. And this number is just staggering. 40%. That's a massive chunk of the entire market. But what exactly does it represent? It represents the 40% of American homeowners who own their homes free and clear. No mortgage at all. These people aren't rate locked, they're life stage locked. They tend to be older, maybe retired, they're financially stable, and they have absolutely zero pressure to sell their home. So for all practical purposes, their houses have been taken out of circulation.
This brings us to the third lock, the replacement cost lock. So, remember that immune system we talked about? The investors who are supposed to fix up old houses? Yeah, that whole system is now completely broken.
And the reason why is just simple, brutal math. Labor costs for renovations are up as much as 80%, materials are up 30%, and the cost of financing a project is just skyrocketed. It's just not profitable anymore for an investor to buy a fixer-upper, do all the work, and flip it. So, they've stopped.
And that leads us right into the fourth lock, scarcity pricing. When there are so few homes for sale, the entire pricing model gets turned on its head. Suddenly, availability, not the actual condition of the house, becomes the main driver of price. A home that needs $100,000 in repairs ends up selling for almost the same price as a perfect, move-in ready one next door. The market isn't punishing neglect anymore, it's capitalizing.
And that brings us to the fifth and final lock, which is the physical reality of the homes themselves. Our housing stock is getting old. The median home in America is now over 40 years old. And what happens around age 40? All the big-ticket items, the roof, the HVAC system, the plumbing, they all start to fail at roughly the same time. Now here's the kicker. None of these 5 locks exist in a vacuum. The real problem, the reason the market is so stuck, is how they all connect and create this powerful, self-reinforcing system.
You can see the feedback loop right here. It's a perfect trap. Low-rate owners don't sell. That shrinks inventory. Low inventory creates scarcity pricing, which means a home's bad condition gets ignored. If condition doesn't hurt the price, then investors have no profit margin to fix things, so they don't intervene. And when nobody intervenes, the aging housing stock just gets older and worse. It is total and complete gridlock.
So if the market isn't heading for a fiery crash, then what's the real danger here? Where's the risk hiding?
And this is the most crucial takeaway. The risk hasn't vanished. It's just been deferred. It's been pushed into the future. So instead of one big, sudden crash, we're getting this slow, quiet accumulation of risk. Problems aren't getting fixed. They're just getting passed from one unsuspecting buyer to the next. Think about it. You buy a house, you're all excited, and then you find out your insurance company won't cover your 30-year-old roof. Now you're suddenly on the hook for a $20,000 bill you never saw coming. That's time-shifted risk in action.
The author of this analysis sums up this entire complex mess in one really powerful sentence, and it's worth just letting it sink in for a second. The housing market is frozen because low fixed rates, combined with high cash ownership, broken replacement economics, scarcity-driven pricing, and aging housing stock have removed the market's natural ability to correct, replacing movement and repair with deferral and compounding risk.
And that really leaves us with one final and pretty unsettling question. If all this risk is just being kicked down the road, not actually resolved, where does it all show up next? And maybe more importantly, who's going to be left holding the bill when it finally comes due?